Hey there. So here's what you want to know about foundation concerns. So when there's foundation concerns in a property, a few things to remember. Foundation companies are salesmen. That's what we're told in our industry. And they come out with their little stick. I'm told they only get a few minutes of training, under an hour is what we're told. And they come out with their little stick and they do the little gauge leveling and they say, okay, yeah, you need some work. You need about $5,000 of work. And then the next salesman foundation company comes out and says, yeah, you need about $20,000 worth of work. I literally, after the third or fourth person, that they'll come and want to say 10 or 15. I've literally had five different foundation companies to come on one property, and they've all had different assessments. And one of the five at that particular time, true story, said, don't touch this house. So maybe one was honest. Okay. Is that don't touch this house, water the foundation, make sure that the soil is moist around the home and it hugs the foundation, keeps it in place because it's Texas. So it's going to move and you'll be fine. Trust me, it'll get back together and seal it up. So reality is, if we really truly want an assessment, a true assessment of the property, and what many people would consider the truth from an expert, we would look at a licensed or a structural engineer, and those do cost money up front. It's out of pocket money. It's an expense that we can, on the buy side, incur or ask the seller to incur. Now that can cost anywhere from $500 to $800, and it is based on availability because structural engineers are not easy to come by. Yet we keep a list of those handy. And so they would come out and typically assess the property and say, my recommendation is to hire a foundation company and do these exact things. And so having that structural engineer to give their recommendation, draw the map out and give specifics prior to the foundation company coming, and they have to go according to whatever the engineer suggests to be done. And then having that structural engineer come post their work and put their blessings, apply their blessings to the work that's been done. That's called a prior to and a post engineer report to sign off on the blessings. And so that is a cost. Sometimes they'll waive the fee to the seller post on the post report and sometimes not. We can, in our negotiations in an option period, ask for the seller to cover the expense of the initial structural engineer report. And if they do suggest repairs are done, we can ask that they repair those. If they do not suggest that any repairs are needed, then great. Most lenders will want to see a structural engineer report of some kind suggesting either way. Now, anytime repairs are done to a property, foundation repairs are done, I'm going to almost always suggest that a hydrostatic test is done post the repair. So it's called a post hydrostatic test, a plumbing test where that pressure is applied in those pipes. And I'm told from some plumbers it's not a big deal. It's like filling up a glass with water. And I'm told by others, no, it's pretty abrasive. And I'm led to believe it's somewhat abrasive and harsh on the pipes because sellers have to sign off on having this test done on their property, and sellers have to sign off on it because it could damage any kind of work under the home. Okay. And so if we're going to get a post hydrostatic test done on the home, we want it to come back that everything is well. There are no leaks in the piping when the property was, they had that repair done and there was some shifting and movement happening. Everything flushes and moves fine. We want that to pass and not fail. And if it fails, we want the seller to repair that. So just know that this is the process. We can go through five repair foundation companies for free, see what all they say, provide those reports, and ask the seller to do what they will with that, and or go the route which I suggest, hiring a structural engineer. And if we do that structural engineer, we now then have to determine, are we going to take on that expense, $500 to $800? It could be more or less, and or defer to the seller to cover that expense in our request to them and repair or remedy whatever those suggestions are, including a post hydrostatic test would be my suggestion. Share your thoughts on this. Definitely something to think about in our option period. We have a list of both. We can go either way. We'll talk soon. Bye.